stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the March 16th Northampton County Council meeting. Ms. Envo, would you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mr. Giovanni.
Here.
Mr. Gofredo.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Lott.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Here.
Ms. Zirinsky. Here. All present.
We have approval of the minutes of March 2nd, 2023.
So moved. Second.
It's like a race.
Call for a vote. For a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, at this point, Mr. Giovanni, it's up to you to bring our young Eagle Scouts up. If they come forward, please. Okay, hold up a second. March the 11th, 2023, Jordan Gagner, Kevin Gagner, Giuseppe Torrisi, Samuel Vidazinski received proclamations on behalf of the County Council for obtaining the Eagle Scout. We ask everybody to stand up and recognize these gentlemen. Mr. Giovanni's, their representative, we went up there and gave these gentlemen their proclamations. And again, on behalf of Northampton County Council, we salute you, gentlemen. You get a picture? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're gonna have courtesy of the floor at this point right now. I hope I don't butcher these names. I'm gonna give it my best. Noah. Go ahead. I'll just go with Noah.
That's fine, Councilman. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Noah
You have
Vahafric.
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Well under that. My name is Noah Vahafric. I'm a resident of Lehigh Township, and I thank the council for allowing me to provide my personal comments. I was excited earlier this week when I received in the mail a copy of the county's broadband study. Ensuring quality broadband access to all residents is important, and it is something I'm passionate about and have professional experience in. I am concerned, however, with what policy solutions may be extrapolated from the results of this survey. There is a phenomenal amount of federal money flowing down to states and municipalities that can be used to develop broadband. Despite that, all of this funding can easily evaporate without achieving the desired results if the wrong policies are pursued. Because my time is limited, I will summarize policies that do not work and policies that can work. The county should be extremely cautious of any proposal to directly construct, own, or operate a broadband network, broadband infrastructure, or telecommunications services. That is not the expertise of a municipal government, but of private industry. There is a seriously large graveyard of these municipal projects around the country. They almost always result in going over budget, over deadlines, suffer from undersubscription, and poor performance, all at the expense of taxpayers and consumers, but to the benefit of consultants who pushed for them. But there is a lot that the county can do to help promote broadband. 4 quick ideas. It can promote the Federal Communication Commission's Affordable Connectivity Program. This provides a partial subsidy for qualifying households. I know a fellow resident mentioned this a couple meetings ago. It can work with municipalities and utility pole owners to create fair rates for broadband providers when attaching their cables to their poles. Something as discrete as pole attachment fees surprisingly have long hampered broadband deployment, especially in rural areas. The county can also engage in what is called a dig once policy. This coordinates the installation of fiber optic cables during a road's construction. This prevents a subsequent duplicative cost of having to rip up the road again just to install cables and then replace the road. Finally, the county needs to be technology neutral. The economics of broadband deployment change by geography, population density, and even zoning rules. So because of this, different technologies, whether it's fiber, cable, satellite, wireless, other ones, should all be encouraged and explored where it makes sense to use that technology. There is not a single technological solution to expanding broadband. That is all. I thank the council again for allowing me to provide these comments, and I'm happy to discuss this further with anyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, if you wish to speak on the Pector development, this is when it's time you will do it while we're having this courtesy of the floor. Next is Richard Williford Hunt. You have 5 minutes, sir. And give your
Yes.
name.
Thank you. Richard Wilford Hunt from Upper Mount Bethel Township. And council members, thank you for your time tonight. County council should not renew LRTA for Upper Mount Bethel, and this is why. The Lehigh Valley does not need any more warehouses, big box store distribution centers. According to Lehigh Valley Economic Development Committee's Q3 2022 real estate report, 3,961,000 square feet of industrial space has been delivered, with an additional 6,448,000 square foot under construction. That's of Q3 2022. Renewing LRTA for Upper Mount Bethel Township would only add to the immense truck traffic and demand for services that these warehouses bring to local communities like ours. The developer's conceptual plans for the warehousing and industrial park in our township shows 9 of the 15 buildings with square footages of greater than 500,000 square foot. The 2 largest at almost 800,000 square foot. In addition, the text amendment zoning changes written by the developer and passed by our Board of Supervisors excuse me, in September 2020 allow 100-foot building heights as of right. These are signatures for the new breed of warehouse, high cube warehousing, typically 6 to 10 stories high, highly automated pallet racking systems, frequent truck turnaround times, and low labor counts. Warehousing now and in the future, unfortunately, will be in demand in the Lehigh Valley because of our proximity to the major metropolitan centers, and as such will be highly profitable to developers no matter the cost to local communities like ours. Northampton County should not be subsidizing those economics for the developers' profits. Please vote no on LRTA for Upper Mount Bethel Township. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Charles Cole. Your name, could you state your name, sir? So she-
Good evening, Charles Cole, Upper Mount Bethel Township.
You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Upper Mount Bethel Township. Family has been in the township for a couple hundred years. I have worked in industry and academia before returning to the homestead in 2006. My experience has been water, wastewater, environmental issues, solid waste, worked a lot with municipalities and infrastructure. And I've been consulting for years. So I direct you to something that you already know. The new business item tonight, item 1, includes comments, the property tax exemption for certain deteriorated properties. And I'm opposed to the renewal because I ask you, have you been out and looked at the I-2 zone? And also you could look at I-3, but in particular the I-2 zone, which is in the LRTA zone. There's nearly 725 acres there. How many of you actually walked on this or looked at it on Google Earth? So you've seen it. To me, it looks like open space, small fields, ravines, wetlands, bog turtles, salamanders, it is not deteriorated property. I've seen a lot of deteriorated property in my career, and that is not one of them. It never should have been put into it. So if you look at the law and what was written, just reiterating here, LRTA provides a tax exemption for certain deteriorated industrial, commercial, and other business property. Doesn't include open space where the so-called Tweety birds are at, which some of the people would maliciously accuse us of protecting. And this law exempts real estate from new construction in deteriorated areas of economically depressed communities and improvements to certain deteriorated industrial, commercial, and other business property. I don't consider my township to be economically depressed. And I think including the area of Med-Ed property, which was purchased as a buffer for Med-Ed many years ago, back in the 70s, is a total mistake. It's misuse of a law which is allowing destruction of open space. So without saying anything more in detail, since Richard Hunt included a lot of the numbers and things, I disagree with including it. I think it was a mistake, and it was fudging things to be able to include that piece of property. Right now, we should look at it and say, hey, we need to revisit this and stop it right now. So that's my learned opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Francis Fiscaro? Fiscaro? I didn't mean to butcher your name.
No, that's all right. My name is Frances Fiscaro, and I'm a citizen and a resident of Upper Mount Bethel. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm speaking about LRTA, but I don't have all the knowledge that everybody does. I'm just a citizen. Thank you for letting me speak at your meeting. My name is Frances Fiscaro. I'm a resident of and homeowner of Upper Mount Bethel. I lived in Upper Mount Bethel for 21 years. I have enjoyed the quiet rural for many years, but now it is changing. My quality of life is less than what it was. I take my life in my hand when I have to cross 611 to get my mail. This is only going to get worse. The traffic on 611 and 512 already have an impact on our town. This development will add to the impact, which has a detrimental effect to the citizens' quality of life. The truck exhaust is a big concern. Air quality is unhealthy. Cutting down trees and clearing out vegetations does not help our air. Our plants, human and animals, would have less fresh air to breathe. Through the process of photosynthesis, plants release oxygen back into the atmosphere. Trees to be cut down, the land will be cleared for what? No one knows, which is what is going to be built. The first building is going to be built on spec. Now, a little history of the last 3 years. The developer came into our town in February of 2020 and did a presentation on his plan, told the citizens of how great his plan was. Then came the text amendment, changing our zoning from 300,000 square feet buildings to 800,000 square feet to 1,000,000 square feet buildings, and the height from 50 feet high to 100 feet high. Over 700 residents signed a petition asking the board not to approve that text amendment. We wanted the original zoning. Then came the NID. The NID is the Neighborhood Improvement District. Will this help the town? Our park was included in the NID. From what I understand, the NID was to help a deteriorating part of a town, not a land that has beautiful trees and forest. Then the developer bought the electric company, made a deal with the Bangor Area Commercial and Industrial Development Authority. The developer gave the authority possession of the land. The authority will get grants to clean up the brown ground that is on the land, and then authority will give back the land to the developer. The newest was presented as sewer authority and sewer plant with a drip irrigation system in two places. One is a 50-acre and the other is 89-acre. If the town was to hook up and use the sewer, the developer then would use land for his drip irrigation in our park. Please do not let the LRTA go on. I'm asking you to let it go. Thank you.
Thank you. Madison Chapman?
She's actually a student. I think
Okay, did you just sign in?
she just signed in.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Madison Chapman and Sharon Chapman, you're students, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay.
Thanks for coming.
Colleen Terry? Is that a student?
No, I'm actually here for, no. Long time ago, maybe. Good evening, thank you.
Okay.
I'm actually not here for the first item of new business. I'm here for the item number 4, so I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time or not, but
It's
we're here.
on the agenda.
Yep, my name's Colleen Terry. I actually live in West Hanover Township, Dauphin County, but we are, I represent Econ Partners. We're a consulting firm. We represent Lehigh Heavy Forge. Mike Druckenmiller is here with me. Hopefully will speak behind me, but we're here to respectfully ask you to consider passing the resolution in your packet under new business number 4, to submit the resolution to submit the RACP application and business plan on behalf of the grant that the Commonwealth awarded, and to thank you for considering being the grantee. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mike, are you,
Yes, that's me.
okay, Mike?
Hi, Mike Druckenmiller. I'm the Vice President, Lehigh Heavy Forge. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak tonight. And again, as Ms. Terry mentioned, we're here to ask for the passing of the resolution to grant the RCAP money for our upender. Our upender is a critical part of the process that we utilize in our facility. It is a safety concern as to why we are looking to make this purchase and this upgrade to our facility. Basically, this piece of equipment helps manipulate the forgings that we make, anywhere from 40 to 150 tons product. Typically, right now, we do it with a crane, and it's not the safest way to do it or the most economical way to do it. So purchase of this upender piece of equipment is again, critical to the safety and efficiency of our facility. So again, I would ask that you please approve our resolution for the application of this RCAP project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judith Henschel? Did I butcher your name too?
A little bit.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's Henkel.
Henkel.
Judith Henkel.
Thank you.
And to fulfill all the, implementation of the farmland and open space conservation and preservation. I was also one of the original members of your county open space advisory board. And I resigned from that about 3 years ago when this development was on the horizon, because I knew I would be having comments and be asking about the qualifications of such a large-scale development in our community as it stands. Our EAC, way back when, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, when the electric company changed hands several times, and I don't know physically, but through their, however corporate things work. So when MetEd became Reliant Energy, we helped Reliant to do an osprey project, which was to replace 2 of the nesting poles that were there with the original. There was an original reintroduction of ospreys into the state in our area by Professor and Dr. Larry Ryman from East Stroudsburg University. With new developments on the property, Reliant said they would replace those poles, put them in other spots. Those birds were there until just recently. There were as many as 4 nesting pairs on the property. At one point, bald eagles were attracted. They took over one of the nest platforms, but then moved to a white pine tree, which subsequently has blown down in a storm. So this is why that particular, if you looked at the older areas of statewide significance for Pennsylvania, you will see that Upper Mount Bethel has about half of the ones for the county, about 20. And you wonder why the electric company would ever be an area of statewide significance, and it's because of the ospreys. So while we were working on that, and that's on the property that is between River Road and the river. This is right along the Delaware River. So on the other side, River Road, with about a 300-foot elevation up to Potomac Street, that 800-some acres and 2 or 3 parcels were bought off a few years ago. That, which has the ravines, as was said before, the wetlands and all these different natural features, Reliant considered that as excess property. That's because it was their buffer to an originally planned nuclear power plant back in the 70s. And since that time, they rented out the farm fields. They did not log it. As far as I know, they didn't put any of their fly ash on it. That fly ash went to a limestone quarry down in Portland, not far, less than a mile away. After that, they trucked it 7 or 8 miles into the slate quarries of Bangor. So they left the land there the way it always was when the people farmed it. So now we're at the point where I'm thinking, this is not a dead brownfield. This is not deteriorated. It's not wasteland. This is living natural green fields or green space. It's in view of the Appalachian Trail, which is on the Kittatinny Ridge or Blue Mountain, whichever name you want to use. That's also an Audubon important bird area because of the migration that intersects with the scenic Delaware River at the Delaware Water Gap. All of these are view sheds for that piece of property and vice versa, anybody on the trail or down the river. So I'm wondering how we get to think that a fisherman on the river or people that are recreating, we'll say floating down the river on rafts or boats or what have you, anybody coming across the bridge from New Jersey, this is what they're going to see. This is the new development they're going to see. They're not going to see what's there now, although right now I can tell you probably part of it's being destroyed in my terms, clear cutting and whatever else is going on there. So I'm thinking this is not, it should never have been LRTA to begin with, and I and a few of us were at the meeting where that was a rushed proposal, get it in there, get it passed, bring it down. We didn't know what was going on. We had no clue. So to wrap up, I'm going to say, of a newspaper article I was appraised of this morning, we do not need jobs in a tax base. Many of us believe we're happy the way it is. We have a farming economy. We have a tourism economy, think like Mincy. We have all that going for us, and we're happy with our own in-home businesses or the people who have and have always, since I grew up, they used to come to Ingersoll Rand, Bethlehem Steel. People didn't always expect they were going to live in their own small community. So I guess I want to leave you with this thought. Picture yourself on the walking bridge between Portland and Columbia.
We're going to wrap it up.
That, yeah, and this is my last sentence. That picture looking up the river towards the Delaware Water Gap, you've got it on your Living Landscapes manual. It's on Plan Slate Belt. It's an iconic picture. Now assume you turn around 180 degrees, and what are you going to see? 10, 13, 14 buildings that are 50 or 100 feet high and up to 1 million square feet. It's your choice. How do you look at our world? Natural or resources to be exploited? Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Newman.
Hi there. I'm Sandra Newman, a supervisor in Lower Mount Bethel Township. And I am here today because my board believes that there are 2 choices available to us. And we need to be proactive to dealing with the changes that our area is confronted with. And in order to maintain and protect the character of our township that we desire, we have to be proactive. We have chosen to update our saldo and our zoning. We've become a scenic byway because we want to preserve the natural qualities of our area and the rural character of our township. If we do nothing, then whatever happens, happens. So I'm speaking for my board, saying that we are opposed to the renewal of LRTA. We don't think it's appropriate, and we don't think that it meets the standards that are set forth in the ordinance. It is not a depressed area, and it's not economically depressed. So we urge you to not renew this LRTA for Upper Mount Bethel. Thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Burns.
Hello, I'm Samantha Burns. I'm a township supervisor in Lower Mount Bethel. And the only thing that I'm going to say is that I would like it to go on record that the comments, views, and endorsement that was given yesterday by our Lower Mount Bethel Township appointed representative to the BACIDA do not reflect in any way the views, concerns, and opinions of the Lower Mount Bethel Township Board of Supervisors. The Lower Mount Bethel Township Board of Supervisors do not endorse the renewal of the LRTA in Upper Mount Bethel Township.
Thank you. Regina Marinelli.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm here to speak against the renewal of the LRTA in Upper Mount Bethel Township. I live in Lower Mount Bethel Township. I've served on the EAC, and I'm currently on the Open Space Committee. I live just a few houses from the center of town. Martins Creek is considered a crossroads village. And I really just learned what that really is by digging into a book that's called the Northampton County Historic and Cultural Assets Plan, put out by the Northampton County Department of Community and Economic Development. And they show a picture of a crossroad village here. And Sandra has done a great job, our supervisor in Lower Mount Bethel Township, of some of the things that we've done in Lower Mount Bethel Township to preserve that crossroad village. We've preserved a lot of farmland. We have a scenic byway, and we've gone through great lengths, but we're squeezed in between communities that have not put those tools, used those tools at their disposal to preserve their way of life. This project is going to bring fleets of trucks down 611. They are going to be traveling on the scenic byway, and then they are going to go up Front Street, many of them, it's a historic village that's already at capacity with truck traffic. Trucks that speed because they have to, gain momentum to go up the hills that they're facing to get out of town. So we're already, at peak capacity. The roads are unsafe. These are the same roads that carry the school buses with our children on them. So I really, I'm pleading with you not to renew the LRTA. It's not an appropriate use. I don't think we should be giving tax breaks to projects that don't really have the best interest of the community that they're residing in or residing next to. Let's give those incentives to manufacturers that are already in business to help train workforces that can give benefits, meaningful benefits to keep their employees, to train their employees. I think that's a better use of my taxpayer dollars. So please, I just really hope that you take all of our concerns into consideration. Thank you very much.
Robert Hart Jr.
I'll pass, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wants to speak on anything? You have 5 minutes.
My name's Ed Nelson. I was here last night. I'm the manager of Upper Mount Bethel Township. You have all of the information that I provided you last night to show you the economic impact that this development or the LRTA would have on Upper Mount Bethel Township, and the opportunity for revenues to stream in, not only for the municipality, but also for the school district and the township and the county. I handed out a sheet to each of you just for some added information from last night. And there's a business, Ultra Poly, is located in Portland Borough, and it borders Upper Mount Bethel Township on Demi Road. And they are now they're going to construct another building on the opposite side of Demi Road in Upper Mount Bethel Township to take care of or to join in on the LRTA, if you so hopefully approve. And those breakdowns, the breakdown of those numbers are before you for the 10 years. And that they said that the savings that they would experience would create an additional 8 full-time jobs plus a 10% increase in Ultra Poly's production capacity. Also, we didn't get an opportunity to complete the information from the school district, and they provided me this here, and I'm going to read it to you. The district's tax revenue by property type. They get 74% of their property taxes from residential properties. They get 11% of their tax revenue from agricultural properties, and 11% from commercial and industrial, and 4% from utilities, public utilities. 49% of the total $60 million budget consists of real estate tax revenue. And as I showed last night, there's a big disparity between what we have for exempt and reduced tax base to actual full-time, full paid tax folks, yeah, taxes. We've also, or the school district has also, and the township as well, has also experienced some negative assessment approvals for the ConAgra plant and also from the MedEd plant. They challenged the tax revenue in one, and that reduced the amount of taxes that was also going to be provided to the municipalities and the school district. So as I had requested last night, and by the way, the Osprey and the Bald Eagles, they left on their own during the pandemic, and they went north to the Delaware Water Gap, and you can see them from our park sometimes when they fly around. So they're not gone. They just moved out. So I would encourage you, please, to support the LRTA project.
Is there anyone else from the public like to speak? Please come forward. You have 5 minutes, and give us your name, please.
As Mr. Chair, I was on the list, but I have to speak. My name is David Friedman. I'm a supervisor in Upper Mount Bethel Township. I'm here on my own accord. I'm not speaking for any other members of the board. It should be pointed out that Mr. Nelson, as manager, does not speak for the board township supervisors. Looking at the LRTA, I think you might be setting a dangerous precedent here tonight. Who is to determine what is deteriorated property in a township? If you take viable farmland, which subsidizes a township, and classify it as deteriorated and put up a warehouse, what are you achieving? Another statistic that should be brought forth tonight is that there are 3 more buildings proposed in Upper Mount Bethel Township. All of them are over 500,000 square feet. According to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, in the last 5 years, in Northampton and Lehigh County, there have been 19 buildings that were in excess of 500,000 square feet. Therefore, 18 of those buildings were warehouses. The other building was an office building. Therefore, the next 3 buildings coming into Upper Mount Bethel Township have a 94% probability of being warehouses. A proliferation of warehouses, we all know we don't want them. And that's what's coming, just because the LORTA is pulling these factories and warehouses in. The developer has used the LORTA for the power plant. That's where it belongs. The powerhouse is deteriorated, it's sitting there rotting, and I hope he has, a good, fair amount of success trying to get clients in there. But using LORTA and perverting it to put under viable farmland is a disservice to this community. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Step up. You have 5 minutes.
Sure.
Tell us your name.
My name is Lou Pector. I'm the developer that is the head of River Point. I think there's a couple relevant things that the board needs to know, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but while we would like to have the order extended, whether it's extended or not, our project will go ahead. It's going to make it less competitive. It'll make it harder for us to get manufacturing users versus general warehouse logistics users that everyone's so fearful of. Our path has not been one of a normal industrial park where it's the Schrin Center would be a good example of something that sits in the middle of an interchange. It's well located for logistics companies, but it's not with the assets that we have. We have the ability to provide a very heavy power base. We're right on the PJM grid. We're in the process of renewing a 230 megawatt interconnect agreement, so we've got we've got power capacity way beyond any industrial park. That's a huge draw for the people we're talking to. 3 of the prospects we're talking to now have a minimum megawatt usage at inception of 10 megawatts. We've got one that's 10, we've got one that's 17, and we have another one that we're under agreement with that's a 72 megawatt user. The geography of this site is very good for them. They bring in by rail, they ship out by rail, and they bring in by truck to a limited degree. So we've got rail, we've got power, we have water, and we're providing for sewer. And we have a high-pressure gas line thanks to the power company and UGI through the middle of this property. It's a 16-inch gas line. There are very few sites anywhere in Lehigh Valley that have such a thing. That's why we're driven to bring manufacturing users there. For us, it's our value-add type user that gets us more profit as a developer, creates more jobs, creates more stable tax base. We're not a REIT that has to own and lease back. We have total flexibility. I can sell pad sites. I can do buildings on a lease back. We can get a high-intensity user like someone that we're talking to spend more inside the building than we'll spend outside the building. It's a very, very substantial rateable at the end of the day for the county, the school district, and the township. The fact that LRTA could or could not be extended just drives us to the lower end of the curve. If we can't compete with places like the Bridge Development in New Jersey, they had a pilot program over there that helped the Ingersoll-Rand site be positioned so successfully. It's a 30-year abatement. We're talking about a 10-year phase in here. We, in our planning, provided for a NID district, which you've probably heard some discussion about. That was a voluntary tax that we imposed upon ourselves on this. It has nothing to do with the park. We're not using the park. The park gets benefit out of the NID budget to help improve the park, but that is being subsidized and paid for entirely by our development, not any of the citizens, not any of the taxpayers. The reason we did the NID was to offset the effects of LRTA, because LRTA, as you know, is a 10-year phase, and we've self-imposed what we think needs to be done up front, so the money is available to provide for services, not wait for the development to happen and the LRTA to burn off. Instead, we provided the same monetary base to provide those services up front with our voluntary imposition fees. So it's a very novel approach. I don't know it's been done anywhere else in Pennsylvania to date either. So it's really something we should be proud of, not sitting here arguing about as if it's hurting someone. It's actually helping the success of this entity. The users that we're talking to are world-class. Many are international users that we're talking to. They're here because of geography and proximity to 80. We've had traffic studies showing that there's just a small percentage of traffic that'll run 611. They're Route 80 centric, going east, north, and west. So there's so many misconceptions about what happens here. If this land were not granted the text amendment consideration that it got, the same amount of square footage would be put in this property, but we put in boxes that are 300,000 and smaller. That use alone would drive us to a logistics use. We'd have septic, we'd have well, we wouldn't spend the money in infrastructure. We'd have 40 boxes that are 300,000 square feet sitting there that.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Would drive us to a different market completely. So in all respect, I want the board to understand that our goal is to get to the manufacturing side of the market. It's a premium market, and it's one that we're after for a specific reason. It makes more sense for this site and for us as a development team. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? We're going to introduce this later, and you need to understand that there will be a hearing on April the 6th where a vote will be taken then. It is only going to be introduced tonight, so we're clear on that. With that said, Mr. Executive, you have a report. Please come forward.
Good evening, Council. Mr. Barron, and apologies in advance, we weren't given enough copies of it, but what should be being distributed to you now is the nomination document for our World Heritage designation for historic Moravian Bethlehem. Now, I have to be clear, no, we're not there yet. Let me just offer the caveat, we're not there yet. There are several stages that the designation has to pass, but the council met today and the commission met today, and what I think I can report to you is we have reached the assessment phase where ECOMOS appoints an assessor, usually from Canada or from continental Europe, who comes to historic Bethlehem to review the site to determine whether it can be recommended to ECOMOS to move forward in the process. So this is the document. We'll get more copies so everybody can have one. And one of the things that was very interesting to me during the meeting today that just drove home what I think we all appreciate is that it will be such a remarkable cultural and economic boon to Northampton County. Specifically, our advisor, Barry Gamble, who is from the United Kingdom and works all over the world on World Heritage issues, said that even before you get the designation, once ECOMOS inscribes your destination, even if you don't ultimately get there, travelers from the Far East, specifically Japan, start traveling to your designated site. So this is going to be a huge year-round cultural and economic boon. And, you know, I just want to emphasize, because they always emphasize it, without the support of Northampton County, without Northampton County's money, and without the continued support of County Council, they would not be filing the nomination document. And I just wanted to, again, express that to you. So that's where I started my day in City Hall in Bethlehem, and then came back to the courthouse and got on a conference call for the executive board meeting of the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. And as you received information from me, I think earlier in the week or last week, the board voted 7-5 to move the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission's office to a new building in Allentown on the waterfront. This was over my strenuous objection, of course, and my objection was made because we have had several members, some solicited, some not, of the commission that we appoint. And I think I heard Mr. Heckman or someone yesterday talk about the difficulty of finding people to serve on our authorities, boards, and commissions. And Mr. Brown probably has a great deal of familiarity with that. Many of our members of the commission do not wish to travel to downtown Allentown for their commission meetings. It's going to be a major inconvenience. And this will be a major barrier to us being able to find commissioners to appoint to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. In addition, all these bi-county institutions endeavor to stay as close to the geographic center of Lehigh Valley as possible. And the Markin location that they're at is very near the geographic center of the Lehigh Valley. Additionally, the new lease will be a triple net lease. This is a government. Government should not be paying triple net leases. And a government entity, a quasi-governmental entity, and which we in part fund. And in addition, it will be the total cost of the lease will be $120,000 more annually than what they currently pay and what they would pay over the next 5 years of a lease extension at the Markin location, or $600,000. Now, they argue that they need $2 million worth of renovations in their current space. I don't necessarily agree with that number. There may be some renovations that are needed and could be done over time, but the fact of the matter is, if I'm right, and there is not the necessity for $2 million worth of renovations in the Markin location, $600,000 additional to be in the, your destination of choice, your cool location, is just not good government. And a matter of fact, it's the quintessence of bad government. So I opposed it, voted against it. 5 other executive board members voted against it. Very unusual to have a vote like that isn't unanimous on these boards. And
talking about the location and the
it's $600,000 additional dollars over the next 5 years, which would mean 40, 45, 50% of that would be our responsibility above and beyond what we budget now.
So
for no good reason other than to be in a cool location.
What would your proposal be?
To stay where they are.
Oh, I thought you said they voted on that they're going to move.
They are.
So they're definitely moving.
Well, yes.
So what would your proposal be going forward, that we pay less in?
Yes.
It's now further away?
Yes, I'm going to reduce, ultimately it'd be up to you, but I'm going to reduce what I propose we give to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Heckman.
I agree with you, Mr. McClure. It was in the old, excuse me, Lehigh Valley International Airport building. That's when I was actually in that, and also when they went to Marcon. I'm struggling to figure out why it would cost so much. I've been in those offices. I wish they would consult maybe with the 2 counties, our folks who do renovations, and maybe we could have come up with some solutions. And you said they already voted on it.
Yeah, parenthetically, Lehigh County is strongly in support of this.
Well, they want to, and you and I, we know why they're strongly in support of this. But the thing is, it is a shame because there was always this commitment to try, and it had nothing to do with like NIMBY type thing, but you tried if you had a multi-municipality or county to stay in the middle, and it's easy comparatively in the valley now, but it was easy to get to, centrally located, and parking was a breeze. And I'm assuming they'll have parking. Do you think it's possible, and you know how I feel about triple net leases, so I won't even go down that road, but is it possible that they're getting some kind, I know they really want to do riverfront, think they're getting some kind of incentive? And I heard you say they're going to charge more, but what drove them, other than, I mean, maybe it's the view or whatever, but usually there's something going on. Well, you know that.
Interestingly, the lease rates are the same in the 2 buildings. They're the same.
So you think it's just the location?
Yes. And they argue, in fairness, they argue that they need $2 million worth of renovations. They don't have enough space for meetings. Sometimes it's hot in there. Sometimes it's cold. I mean, Look, no, that, I understand. That's a real quality of life work issue. I get that. I've never worked in an office building that was warm when it should have been or cold when it should have been, and that includes that office
gonna
over there,
say,
which is a total
we hear
disaster.
that all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Brown's going, oh, yeah, he knows. He
That's
knows.
all. I just-
It hasn't gotten any better, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
I've tried, by the way, and it's not getting any better.
Mr. Lott?
I sat on the planning commission for about a decade. Can't remember exactly the year, but we did have, it was less than 10 years ago, we remodeled that building. Was remodeled, less than 10 years ago. I remember when it happened, so. Just for whatever that's worth, I don't know how you'd spend that kind of money remodeling again, because we did it less than 10 years ago. Thank you.
Ms. Varya Hefner?
I don't know how to phrase this question, so bear with me. Do we have to belong to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission?
So we have some experience with breakups. I'm thinking of the breakup with the Housing Authority. These are difficult, though, and painful, as we know, those of us have been with breakups in our lives. The fact of the matter is, it is not today a recommendation I am making to you, Ms. Vargo Hefner.
I just asked if.
But it's possible, yes, and we've all.
And I'm certainly not asking you to make that commitment. I'm just asking, because you did a very nice job last year coming to us and explaining the Lehigh Valley Transportation Study and breaking it down. And we hear these acronyms all the time, and I came on here and I inherit these boards that we belong to and the money that we commit. Some of you have longer term experience. I would love to have a review of why and how this got started, and what our relationship is and where it's going. And if you're willing to do that, or somebody else is down the road at a finance committee meeting or a special meeting, I would love to have that.
Mr. Barron has been working on it for a while. Mr. Dertinger has now joined the committee, this little committee I put together, and they are investigating what it would take to form the Northampton County Planning Commission. And we do not believe at first blush that it would cost us more to do it. So please keep in mind, though, I don't want to create expectations that are unrealistic. We could have our own planning commission, but the LVTS is a different animal, and we probably could not disengage from the LVTS. But that matters not because we don't get our fair share from them anyway.
But you heard what
Yeah, I heard you.
I'm not trying to sound like because again, you come on get elected to these positions, and there's all these things to learn, and I haven't been here 20 years paying attention to planning issues. It's not my world. I rely on other people who go. I rely on the people that sit there to come back to us, and what's the cost benefit at the end of the day? And I keep hearing every time they come, you need us, you need us, you need us.
So as you all know, because you've heard it many times, the trend, and especially HUD is big with this, they want more central, they want more amalgamation of governments. They don't want less, but from my perspective, do we have to stay in an abusive relationship, which this is, and I don't know that we should.
That's very strong.
That world I understand, and I would advocate no.
Mr. Cusack?
Just quickly, did you mention who they are leasing from?
I know that the building is owned. I don't know how it's owned. I know some Messrs. Jandal, the ones associated with the bank, are owners of the building, but I don't know specifically which ones are.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Varya Hefner stole my thunder because I was going to ask the same question. If there's a possibility that we could pull out of this thing, the $120,000 is ridiculous. And just so you know, they're scheduled to be here, the first meeting in May. And any guns you want to load up to shoot at them, let us know so we can make sure we go at them, because this is crazy. On top of it, I got my first response from the budget about their salaries from October's meeting today. So I look forward to them coming, and I look forward to asking the question, besides the vanity part of moving into the center city of Allentown, what other possible remedy, why are you doing it now when Mr. Lott just threw more fire on it by telling us they did a renovation less than 10 years ago?
Yeah, and your use of the colloquial phrase "loading the guns" reminds me, I shouldn't have compared this governmental arrangement that doesn't work for our taxpayers to abuse. I apologize for that. I shouldn't have done that.
And I apologize for my tone with it, but this is ridiculous what they're trying. They're just trying to take advantage of us. And I just think at some point we maybe need a divorce. Any other questions for Mr. McClure? Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation on Moravian, and I look forward to hearing from that.
Hank and Charlene are looking forward to coming in again in the near future to give you an update as to where we're at.
I look forward
because
to that.
I don't have the requisite grasp of what's really happening to keep you in the loop.
That is phenomenal. Thank you, sir. Old business. Public hearing on the ordinance entitled, an ordinance by Northampton County Council authorizing the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT, to acquire right-of-way on the county's behalf for the construction of County Bridge 15, the Meadows Road in Lower Saucon Township. This was introduced by Ms. Vargo Hefner and Mr. Cusack on March 2nd's meeting. Any questions or comments about this at this time? Any discussion?
No, let's do this.
Okay. Let's call for a vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Is there any old business we need to discuss at this time? If not, we're going to move to new business. An introduction of the ordinance entitled, an ordinance by Northampton County Council concurring with Upper Mount Bethel Township and the Bangor Area School District in providing the property tax exempt for certain deteriorated property as defined in ordinance 2017-04 of the Upper Mount Bethel Township pursuant with Act 76 of 1977, the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as amended 72 PS 4722. Do I have a sponsor for this ordinance?
Yes, you do.
Mr. Joe, is there a second? Mr. Galfredo is the second. Indicate, I'm going to let everyone, I'm going to remind everybody again that there will be a public meeting on this vote, hearing on this, and we will have that on at the April 6th meeting. Consideration of county execs appointment and reappointment resolution, general purpose authority, Graysdale Advisory, Industrial Development Authority, and Personal Appeals. Ms. Farr, you have no introduce the resolutions, please.
Resolved by the Northampton County Council that the following individuals shall be confirmed in their appointments, reappointments as indicated hereafter. General Purpose Authority, Lance Colondo, Nazareth, PA, term to expire 12/31/25. Graysdale Advisory Board, reappointments, term to expire 4/19/25 for all. James Irwin, Nazareth, PA. Elaine Reynolds, Easton, PA. Bill Ryan, Easton, PA. Marianne Schwoyer, Bath, PA. Luann Vogel, Nazareth, PA. Industrial Development Board, appointment, term to expire 3/17/28. Narit Barron, Easton, PA. Personnel Appeals Board, Michael Lichtenberger, Bethlehem, PA. Term to expire February 3rd, 25. Reappointment, Anthony Tony Pristash, term to expire February 3rd, 2025. Thank you. This was all heard yesterday at the Personnel Committee.
Discussion. Mr. Cusack.
Yeah, something that was brought to my attention, we received a copy of the terms for the Graysdale Advisory Board, and it appears that all 9 of them expire at the same time. Now, typically what we do with authorities, boards, and commissions, they are staggered. And I'm wondering if these appointments are being made in a way that represents the staggering that we would normally do, because I think it's unusual for all 9 appointments to expire at the same time. And Mr. Spadoni, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I would add that this is on the recommendation of the county executive. Maybe he should be heard in this regard.
Ms. McClure, could you are recognized to please answer this question? Or inquiry, sir?
So I am recommending appointments to the Graysdale Advisory Board as it was instituted by County Council. Graysdale Advisory Board is one of those things that came in the aftermath of the attempted sale of the home. And I don't think County Council was thinking about the staggering of terms. I don't know. I think you were here too, but I don't know that anybody thought of the staggering of terms when the Graysdale Advisory Board was created. So it's council created, and I don't know, I mean, council could amend it, but we would be left without, the full complement of the board for a couple of years. I don't know how you want to do that.
Yeah, well, the suggestion I was going to make is that we have 5 appointments here for 9 positions.
Yes, and there are 4 vacancies.
So what we could do is appoint these tonight, and then the next 4 would be for 1-year term.
Okay.
That work?
When would we do that? Because I don't, it's hard to get folks to do this.
So is it better to have them on for 4 years because they make that 4-year commitment?
Well,
Well, we already.
yeah, they can only be 2, yeah.
Oh.
Under the charter. And the charter's silent on this, right? Whether they can all be, it's silent on.
Yeah.
My own suggestion would be leave it alone, but I just, they don't have any, they don't have any legislative power. They don't have any administrative power. It's merely advisory. It infrequently meets. They hear the same things that council does at the council committee meetings for human services. So I think maybe we're looking for a cure to an illness that doesn't exist.
So right now, they're 2 years. If the next 4 you want to appoint, asking someone to go on for 4 years would be more difficult? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, we can't ask them to serve. We can only ask them to serve 2.
We can only ask them to serve 2.
But what Mr. Spadoni and Mr. Cusick are suggesting is that we wait, give the next people a 1 year, and then they will then stagger thereafter.
Okay.
I think you have to change your resolution. And I don't know how it was created. I think it was created by resolution.
Ms. Varga-Hefner?
I had a question yesterday because I know some of the boards, and you're giving me part of the answer today, some of the boards, you can't serve a concurrent term. Are there any limitations on this board?
No.
Because I asked yesterday if these were written anywhere, if we could see a copy of them.
No.
Because we just don't have them.
The bylaws to the Grace, I'll try.
Because I know like with the mental health board, you have to wait and you have to take a little vacation before you could come back. And is that?
I have to admit, I don't have the bylaws at my fingertips, but I'll get them for you.
Thanks.
Mr. Hickman?
Yeah, I would say we should probably just vote these in right now. Then you have a chance, if you want to look at it, I think there's 4 vacancies.
Yes.
In that. Maybe we want to do something, maybe not. But I would just say, let's do it as it is right now. That would be my suggestion.
Works for me. Any other discussion? Call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo-Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Consideration of a donation from Friends of Graysdale Resolution. Mr. Heckman, would you please read that?
Okay, I'm going to add this extra part since we have students here, why we do what we do, a teachable moment.
They're leaving.
Anyway, whereas county council must pass, I said that and they're leaving.
Yeah, they're
Must
leaving.
pass a resolution to accept all gifts to Northampton County as outlined in the Home Rule Charter. And whereas the Friends of Graysdale wish to donate a wheelchair and swing that has an approximate value of $7,500 for the use and enjoyment of all wheelchair-bound residents of the home. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Northampton County hereby authorizes the county executive to accept the gift of one wheelchair swing to be used at the home made by the Friends of Graysdale. So introduced.
Discussion on this? Call for the vote, please.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Consideration of authorization to file the redevelopment assistant capital program, grant application and business plan resolution. Ms. Zirinsky, would you please introduce this resolution?
Whereas the RCAP grant, if and when issued, shall not, now therefore be it resolved by Northampton County Council that, one, the county supports the grant to LHF in the amount of $1,100,000 to be used for the LHF machine shop upenders. Two, the county agrees to serve as the public applicant for the grant. Three, the county council authorizes the county executive to execute the grant agreement on behalf of LHF and to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate receipt of the grant for the project.
This was considered as committee meetings. Any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
You folks got your
Upender.
Thank you very much.
An upender.
upender. Consideration of approval for fiscal year 2021 home ARP plan for Northampton County. Ms. Zirinsky, please read the resolution.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the County of Northampton, one, that the fiscal year 2021 home ARP allocation plan needed to secure this funding is hereby approved. Two, County Council is cognizant of the conditions that are imposed in the undertaking and carrying out of programs when using federal financial assistance. Three, that the county executive and the Northampton County Department of Economic Development are authorized to execute and file the financial assistance application for $2,338,781 for the home ARP allocation plan to HUD that has made this amount available to carry out Northampton County's program. That the county executive is hereby authorized to provide such assurances and/or certifications as required by HUD and to provide any additional documents that may be requested.
Discussion. Call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Consideration of Administrative Code Article 13, Contract AMO Environmental Decisions, Touch of Class Services, LL, Flyway Excavation, Professional Construction Contractors. Mr. Heckman, please introduce this, please.
Yes. I just want to remind people that we did have this at the Finance Committee meeting yesterday, and they were all discussed, and some folks are here. DCED is here in case there are any questions. So first up, whereas on February 28th, 2023, the Northampton County Council received a request from the county executive for county council to adopt a resolution approving a contract in the amount of $56,000 with AMO Environmental Decisions as environmental consultants for grant management, site inventory and selection, site assessments and reporting, remedial action program plans and actions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation, term 2023 to 2026, to approve the contract with AMO Environmental Decisions. You have the procurement notice attached with pertinent information.
Discussion. This was talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
If there's no discussion, let's call for a vote.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Touch the class, Mr. Heckman.
Thank you. Whereas on March 1st, 2023, the Northampton County Council received a request from the county executive for county council to adopt a resolution approving a contract, excuse me, in the amount of $53,000 a year over a 3-year period for a total of $159,000 with 2 one-year renewals for a revised estimated total of $265,000 with Touch of Class Services, LLC, for remains transport from the coroner's office. Now therefore be it resolved that Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Touch of Class Services, LLC. And the coroner was here yesterday as well to discuss this. Sheets attached.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Next, we have Flyway Excavating Incorporated. Whereas on March 7th, 2023, the county council received a request from the county executive for county council to adopt a resolution approving a contract in the amount of $103,725 for a term of 1 year with Flyway Excavating Incorporated from Monocacy Stream Restoration. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Flyway Excavating.
Discussion. Can we have the vote, please?
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Mr. Heckman.
All right. Next, we have Professional Construction Contractors Incorporated. Whereas on March 8th, 2023, Northampton County Council received a request from the county executive for county council to adopt a resolution approving a contract in the amount of $170,046 for a term of 3 months with Professional Construction Contractors Incorporated for the Graysdale Nursing Home Sidewalk Project. Now therefore be it resolved that Northampton County does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Professional Construction Contractors Incorporated.
Mr. Amelia addressed this yesterday and told us what it's about. If there's any questions on this discussion? If not, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Is there any other new business we need to discuss at this time? If not, council members, committee reports.
I had a finance committee meeting. We voted on the fruits of it. It was a robust meeting. We also, to say the least, we talked about the Upper Mount Bethel Township situation and the contracts, and I think that was about it.
Ms. Varga Hefner.
Personnel met yesterday. The fruits of our labor were adopted today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Giovanni for Mr. Galfredo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you have to ask him.
And I got Tara. I know she's over there.
Capital Projects Operation Committee met today. We heard from Mr. Amelia about the current projects going on in the county. Some of the projects, especially generator replacements, are on backlog because they can't get the parts from a part issue. For, I think engines are the main part for the generator. They cannot receive them. So they're pushed back a little bit. The one for Graysdale is, for the government center is June, and Graysdale is July. And Mr. Amelia also quoted on the bridges and all the stuff at the parks, and that is my report.
The illustrious Ms. Zawinski, since you had such a robust meeting today.
I did have a robust meeting today, and thanks for acknowledging that. Our first report was from the Delaware Water Gap Coalition from Tara Mezzanotte. She filled us in, if you remember, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we joined in a coalition with several other counties and municipalities, including our own East Bangor Borough, Plainfield Township, Penn Argyl, Lower Mount Bethel, Upper Mount Bethel, and Stockton Borough in a multi-state regional coalition to understand the I-80 and the S-curve, as well as, did she call it? Oh my gosh. The I-80/611 Delaware Water Gap Corridor Study. It's not complete yet, but the coalition is moving forward. The new Congressman Kane from her district in New Jersey has now been on board, and she just wanted to update us on that. It was very good, thank you. Then we had the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, Long Range Transportation Report. Becky Bradley was here. She did tell us and took notes on all the things that we thought should be included in the federal funds that have been allocated for our region. She talked about the Planning and Investment Board and the different plans that they have for the buckets of money that have been allocated in that fund, with the priorities of efficiency, preservation, safety, reliance, resiliency, and the Justice 40 equity. Finally, we had Megan Uliana update us on the Nazareth Borough Municipality Authority biosolids application. And her suggestion was amending the Right to Farm Act, which we understand that we can't do. But we are very concerned about the issue of sludge and water runoff. She did explain to us that the Delaware Riverkeeper Network is involved. And I encouraged her to form coalitions with other environmental entities. I also attended the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission executive meeting. Executive McClure did fill us in that the office will be moving. There's not much that we can do about that. But we did talk about several other issues, including the Unified Planning Work Program, the presentation about the pension performance, and different action plans that they have. I also attended today the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee for CCAP. They are not holding the meeting at CCAP this year. They held it prior to, and Frank Marza is our new CCAP liaison. We talked about the pending utility solar task force, which is on the verge of being formed. That's something that we actually voted on last August as a whole entire County Commissioners Association. And it comes at a good time because SB 211, introduced by Senator Yaw, the solar decommissioning bill, was just passed in the Senate on March 9th. It is headed to the House. This is something that concerns anybody who is trying to put together a solar project, because it calls for graduated phases and processes for financial assurances and 5-year benchmarks and third-party professional engineers. Just a lot of layers in the process of solar. We also had a presentation there by Robert Young from the DEP on the state water plan. This is really important, and this is something that Robert Young said that he would talk to me, and I'm also going to bring to the council, because obviously it's a lot more than I can talk about in the time that I have here. So look for that on the horizon. Thank you.
Yesterday, we had the Courts and Corrections meeting. We had the various directors from the Juvenile Justice. We also had the director from Juvenile Probation, who spoke to us and gave us a slideshow about a lot of things that are going on there. We were floored by one event. They were telling us that they had two people that were off campus. That they were not, I don't know if they were saying that themselves, for $43,000 for two people, which
Per diem.
yeah, it just blew us right out the water. We couldn't believe that yesterday. Also, one of the things that was discussed is that our executive has had a conversation with those guys about increasing what the outside pays, and that will take effect as of July 1, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. McClure, is that correct? Yes. Thank you for doing that. There was a lot of information that was hit for us yesterday. We also had the DA here. He gave us some updates on the, CAC, what they're doing with the kids, and how their joint effort between children and youth and him has been working extremely well. So our kids are being protected from that standpoint. And it was a great meeting. Anybody else wants to add to it? Because it was rather in-depth. There was a lot that was going on yesterday. And if not, we'll move on. How about council liaison reports?
I have a bunch.
John P.
Go ahead, you go first.
Conservation District met Tuesday night. Their biggest concern is that their engineer left for Lehigh County. They have basically been told that he will continue to do work for them, subbed out, so they'll be paying a fee until June, and then he'll have to dedicate himself completely to Lehigh County. They also said that they listed the job, I believe, in January, and they haven't had any applicants or any real applicants, and they believe that the pay needs to be adjusted. I said, to come, we're dealing with that in a lot of areas. I invited the chair, Jeff Kiefer, to come speak to a committee meeting, because they had a couple other concerns, communication about getting local help with their ACAP grants and other things like that.
Are you done? As far as you have to.
Let's see. GPA did not meet this month. Discover Lehigh Valley met. The big news, Mr. McClure stole my thunder, is the World Heritage application is in. So everyone was really excited about that. Statewide occupancy is down for the first quarter, but the Lehigh Valley tends to be still doing better, outperforming the rest of the state, even though that occupancy for all was down. Mental health, early intervention, and developmental disabilities met this month. Also, Mr. Giovanni and I were there, talked about getting budgets ready. I'm just going to say this overall for everybody. Staffing is an issue, period. It's an issue here, it's an issue in the state. You talk about it, courts and corrections. These are the kind of positions that were sought after years ago, and folks coming into the workforce just don't see them the way they were viewed back in the day. So it's an overall problem. And I feel bad always saying that all the time, but I'm gonna say it again when we talk about my state reports. So it's just we're gonna have to be very creative, is all I could say. One thing, because I attended both of my CCAP meetings also this week, they talked at the State Human Services meeting about the OT LSR competency homes as being developed across the state. And I know I keep bugging our staff about it, but I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the curve compared to some of the rest of the states, so that ours is having construction issues, but I think we'll be ready to launch before some other people's are. So that was kind of nice to hear, in a bigger context. We are working on, the governor has proposed to raise the base funding cap to higher than we expected. So this was kind of good news, but will it stay and will it sustain? So the fact that he recognized it and he saw it is great. It's up to us to work and push our legislators to make sure they accept that and maintain that as part of the budget. But it's huge because the base rate hasn't been raised in many, many years, and we're below the curve. So he went above and beyond, and we really appreciate that. There's other places that he didn't, and that was evidenced at some of the courts and corrections meetings that we held. Where you heard yesterday just a little bit of what's happening in the state. He talked about that. But the beds are low, the fact that we have a justice center, that if we can, again, do creativity with staffing, we could be a regional center for other people. Because they talked about money was given to Norristown to increase the number of competency beds for the adults, but they're not following suit with the juveniles. And again, complex cases, problematic across the state. So the same issues we keep talking about are the same issues we keep talking about. The governor has spoken about some of them. It's up to us to pitch the legislators. And the last thing is, Carrie and I attended the CJAB meeting this week. And again, we met with different folks that are dealing in the court system. Criminal Justice Advisory Board, thank you. Again, talked with them about how we can liaison with them and with CCAP, because there's tons of grant money coming in the criminal justice sector. There's money out there for these competency children, the CAC that he's talking about. There's money out there to build certain programs. So to make sure that we're getting what we want. And they were talking about trying to create, let me see if I got this right, a threat assessment center, because of, I know like at St. Luke's, we have child threat task force, so that if some kid threatens a school, they come to us, we have to hear it right away. They're looking to form something within the whole county to look at adults as well as juveniles and what kind of threats are coming in and how do we respond, how do we predict, and how do we, assess. So that's something they're looking to do in the future. And that's, my voice made it, goodbye.
The biggest thing we got from yesterday was, and we heard time and time again, was retention. That's a real problem. Mr. Giovanni, sir.
Yes, I attended the farm preservation meeting, and some good news. There's 16 farms that are being ranked and reviewed to add to the 247 farms that are already and if they are all approved by 2025, that'll push us up to 20,000 acres of farm preserved and 265 farms. I thank Mr. McClure because all $3 million has been used, that budget, for the farmland. And Maria has no backlog, not at all. So that's my report. No, there's no backlog. It's completely empty.
No backlog. Love it.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Clerk's report.
Nothing.
Solicitor.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
With that said, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second. So move. Yeah.